What's up to everyone out there in internet land? Thank you for joining me here on Retro Geek Gaming, where we like to talk about, well, gaming stuff mostly. And every now and then there's a sprinkle of retro and a sprinkle of geekiness. So thank you for joining me for this YouTube video where we're going to talk again about the Switch 2. And I'm sorry, I keep talking about it a lot. I keep telling myself I'm not going to talk about it anymore. But it seems like the closer we get to whenever this thing's going to be announced or revealed, that we start to get more and more information on it. So I wanted to talk about a couple of things and then won't take up much more of your time. So thank you for joining me. So let's go ahead and get into it. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the idea of this patent that showed up. And it might be inverted on here. I do apologize for that, but you can just sort of see that this is the idea of, hey, this is what the Switch 2 potentially is. And really, it's just very similar to what the Switch already is. But it is missing a few features, as you can see. Now, do I believe this is it? Well, not really. Because could it be close? Yes, it could certainly be close. As you can see from the patent, it has its usual joystick left part, and it has the 4 buttons on the right. But it is missing a lot of the key features that I'm guessing most games would use nowadays. So unless they're doing something radical and completely changing how the controller works like they did with the Wii, or maybe that's a sideways view of it, although I doubt it. Why would you have a screen that big if it's meant to be held this way? I think you would have it show it longer, like a Wii remote, rather than wider like it is. So unless that's meant to be held a different direction, I believe that is probably going to be like, is it missing the D-pad? Yes. Does it show the L and the R? No. If you look at the back part of the patent, it doesn't show any sort of ZL, ZR, L and R situation. But I do believe that the whole point of that patent is this is the form factor. It's going to have a screen in the center like we suspected. It's going to have a left side with the main maybe circle pad. I mean, it looked like it was a circle pad, or maybe it's just an analog stick. And then, of course, on the left side, you're going to have, on the right side of it, you're going to have the traditional buttons A, B, X, and Y. Again, it didn't show a second analog stick on the right like you would think most people would have, because, I mean, every single controller, pretty much since the GameCube, has had some sort of a right functionality, whether it is a traditional controller like the GameCube had, where it used C as a stick, or whether it's like the new Nintendo 3DS where it used C like a stick, more like a pad, I guess, or whether it's something like the Wii did, where when you have it connected to the nunchuck, the D-pad sort of acted like a secondary stick for certain games. So most systems have had at least 2 analog sticks. So again, I don't think that that's really the final form of it. I think that it's going to have, at least I hope it's going to have, it would make sense for most games, especially if this is going to be like what they say it's going to be, for it to have 2 sticks. And to, of course, also have L and R and ZL and ZR, because, I mean, how are you going to have that kind of functionality if you're going to continue to bring over third-party games like Call of Duty and stuff, as Microsoft says they're going to bring Call of Duty over, if you don't have some kind of a functionality in there to, move a cursor and, shoot with ZL and ZR or L and R or whatever it is you're going to use it for. But with all that being said, I think that the whole idea of that patent is, again, to just show that they might not have Joy-Cons, that it might be more like a Switch Lite. It might just be one big console that maybe uses Joy-Cons or uses a Pro Controller separately, kind of like something I pointed out in another video, which I used the Wii U gamepad to demonstrate sort of what I meant of it's a bigger, maybe a thicker, bulkier console to be able to take being dropped and all that stuff like that. And because it's a little bit thicker, it's able to hold in more processing and do more capable things, but it still has all the traditional buttons that you expect and still the same size screen and all the functionality that you expect from it. All of that's still built into it. It's just really meant to be more of its own thing as a portable, with the option to still dock it and use hopefully Joy-Cons and Pro controllers and stuff with it. And so with that being said, let's move on to the second bit of rumors or speculation, I guess, that's out there. It was reported earlier on this channel, and it's sort of been addressed a little bit more in other YouTube videos, that, we talked about this on the channel before, this idea that there was a rumor going around that Nintendo is going to do something similar to what Sony has done in the past. And I've speculated things like it could possibly be a Vita/PlayStation TV sort of idea where, the games just sort of go back and forth. And you just pop the card into one, the card into the other, back and forth with it. Or how it could be potentially VR. And, I've talked about all that kinds of stuff. I'm not going to go into it here. But it seems like more has opened up, where the person that did the rumor went on some sort of podcast. I'll see if I can find it, and we'll talk about it.
Was planning was PlayStation-like with the Switch 2. And then when I saw these recent...
be ugly.
Yeah. So then when I saw the rumors popping up again of a digital Switch 2, I said to my guy, I'm like, come on, can I just say this now? They're like, okay. So what I had heard about the Switch 2 that was PlayStation-like, and it links up with the digital and physical Switch, was that the plan, again, I don't know if Nintendo is still going ahead with this. This is the thing. Even my guy's not sure if Nintendo is still going ahead with this. But the plan was to have a backwards compatible version and a non-backwards compatible version of the Switch 2.
So yeah, just like I played in that clip, the original plan, and again, this probably could have changed, and this sort of goes along the lines of some of the rumors that have been sort of floating around there. The original plan was to go forward with a non-backwards compatible one and a backwards compatible one, sort of like what we had with the PlayStation 3, where there was certain models that weren't backwards compatible and then others that were. And we've seen this happen before with, I think, the Wii. I think it lost its GameCube backwards compatibility in one model. And it also just sort of makes sense with the idea of how this is going to sort of match the Series S, because the Series S is all digital. And honestly, it makes sense because this is the way companies have been going now. I mean, Xbox Series S and X, the PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 5 digital version. So having two different versions of that console seems to make sense, but I think that it needs to be the other way around from what some people are saying. Some people are saying that the physical version of the console needs to be the more powerful one, but I don't think that that's going to be the case. And here's the reason why. And I've sort of gone back and forth on this, because do I want backwards compatible Switch? Yes, I think that would be a great way to expand your library, especially if you put in the work to come out with like a 4K version of Tears of the Kingdom, for an example. And just sort of keep some shelf life on these evergreen titles that Nintendo has. But it also takes away from the console. I mean, let's just be honest. Like, let's look at what we've had from the PS4 and the PS5, the Xbox One and the Xbox Series consoles. One gets hindered. Like, how much better could God of War Ragnarok or Horizon Forbidden West have been if they were PlayStation 5 only consoles? And I understand 110% we were in the middle of an epidemic when that happened. So these consoles sort of had a rough start where it's like, look, people aren't buying PlayStation 5s, so you can't really manufacture them. We got to have these games be PS4 versions. But how much better would those games have been if they were solely 100% PlayStation 5 only games. So I almost want Nintendo to go the route of, if you get a non-backwards compatible Switch, fully digital, it has more built-in memory for games, since that's the only way you can get games. You can't buy them physically and plug them into a cartridge. Plug them into a cartridge slot to play those games off of the cartridge like we've been doing for years. So we got more memory in it, but also because there's no longer that room to run whatever they're going to do, an emulator, or you download it from the shop, or however it is that they do it. That extra, like if you think about the Wii U and how half of it was basically a Wii emulator, to when you plugged in the game, it recognized it as a Wii and it booted up to the Wii menu and played Wii games. Imagine if they did that again, and the Switch 2 is basically half of that console is now basically there to make sure that Switch games can run properly. That seems like that sort of defeats the purpose. So to me, the idea of having it be backwards compatible needs to be the weaker physical version of it, and the better version needs to be the all digital one. So that way, a game is guaranteed to be a Switch 2 110%. This is the only way you can get it, because 100% of the components in here are dedicated to making sure the system runs these games at their max capacity. Because I think that's the only way they can take advantage of the storage. Because unlike the Series S, where they made it smaller, and the Series X that they made bigger, the only other option that they have is to make it do the exact same thing. Now, could they do it? Yes, because after all, the PS5 has done it. The PS5 has a digital version that's the exact same components on the inside as the PS5 with the disc slot. The only difference is that, again, it's a little bit thinner because there's no disc slot. And with the cartridge slot, if this does continue to use cartridges, not taking up a whole lot of space, I imagine that they could easily continue to have it. So I'm hoping that Nintendo has changed the plans and gone with one model that reads cartridges, and they just use the bigger ones. You know, the ones that use up, like, maybe, I think the largest one is a 32 gigabyte one or something. I don't remember what the largest amount of memory on a Switch cartridge was, but, just use bigger ones that hold more memory so you can continue to bring these classic games over from, older consoles, and also continue to bring over the third-party support, but also just have it to it's like a Vita, or like the Switch is now, and it's just a little slot that you open up, so that way if you never want to touch that slot and have all digital games, it's perfectly fine. But would it make sense for them to come out with 2 SKUs? Yeah, probably, because that's what everybody's doing now. We're in a day and age now where there's 2 different versions of an Xbox and 2 different versions of a PlayStation for no reason, really, because what difference does it make, right? If you buy a Xbox Series X, that doesn't mean that you just instantly put discs in there. I mean, I've only really put 2 discs in that system ever. Most of my games on Xbox are digital or Game Pass, so I just got it because it has more processing capabilities to make the games look better. And I have it in there should I ever come across a situation like I've had to do in Titanfall, where I wanted to verify that I own Titanfall 2 and download it. Or I want to verify that I own whatever game that I download from the 360 era or the Xbox One era, and just download it again. So I think that's the only reason why they would even want to have a cartridge slot, because I have a feeling that they're going to go with an all-digital library, but who knows what Nintendo's plan is anymore. We'll just have to wait and see. But it feels like we are still on the cusp of the system being revealed, maybe by the next Nintendo Direct in February. Who really knows? I'm hoping that it's revealed sooner, like November or December, to start getting people hyped up for a release in March, because that just makes the most sense. But again, Nintendo's going to do whatever they're going to do. I think they're going to wait until after a lot of these games come out to just sort of like, what's the point of me buying Princess Peach Showtime if we got Switch 2 coming out? Well, it's Switch 2 features for it, like, why would you want to play Breath of the Wild again? Well, again, if you put it in the Switch 2, maybe it's 4K, 120 frames a second. Who knows? But that's all that I got for this video, guys. I'm going to go ahead and end it here. I think I've gone on long enough with my rant. But what do you think about either of the information? It seems like the patent that we showed is really just there to sort of show, hey, we can sort of condense these components down, make these analog sticks, add more space to make the screen bigger, and just to sort of show the functionality of what the system is? Or do you think that that is really truly what Nintendo's going to use? I don't. I just think that that's just an idea of the form factor that we all suspected it was going to be. And of course, what do you think of the idea of Nintendo releasing 2 different versions of their next gen system? Do you think it makes sense for them to do a digital and a physical version, or do you think that we're still going to get just one? Just one. Because, I mean, that's something Nintendo hasn't really ever touched on. They've always had at least a disc slot somewhere. And even when they've made something smaller, like the Switch Lite, it still did cartridges. So do you think that they're going to get away with that altogether? I'm interested in your thoughts. But I hope that you guys have yourself a fantastic rest of your day, fantastic rest of your week. And if I don't talk to you by the end of the week, then, just continue being awesome. Have a good one, guys. I'll see you next time.